Friends, saddened by the departure of Bert's soul, we gather to say goodbye to him. Accomplished and devoted, caring and determined, articulate and kind, smart and modest, and Ohev Yisrael, a lover of the Jewish people and the state of Israel, Bert was for years an active presence in our midst. Our rabbis teach, weep for the mourners, not for the soul that is gone, it to its repose, we to grief. Thus, Bert's beloved family and friends, and the members of our congregation and community recall the many vital decades of his life, a life rich in devotion to work, dear ones, and the state of Israel. For death has taken Bert, beloved husband of Ruth, and the widower of Phyllis, Aleha HaShalom, may her repose be peace, father of Heidi and of Bradley, Alav HaShalom, may his repose be peace, stepfather of Carmel, and of Daniela and Mila, brother of Bernice and uncle of Howard and Linda, great uncle of Andrea. For Bert's companionship that was shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of his heart and mind that brought joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance, for top secret labs and letters to the editor, for all these and more, we give thanks to God. We know that all things pass, all that lives must die, all that we prize is but lent to us, and the time comes when we must surrender it. We are travelers on the same road that leads to the same end. Acutely aware of life's ultimate brevity, this September, Bert turned 90. Today, we who likewise travel that well-worn road turn to the rituals of Jewish tradition. For in times of joy and in times of sorrow, the Jew searches not for platitudes or easy answers, but for justice and compassion and God. Hence, amidst mystery and grief, we lift our voices in comfort and in hope. Shiviti Adonai, teaches the psalmist. I have set the path of the eternal before me.
Shiviti Adonai, lenegdi tamid, ki mimini palemot. Lachen samach libi, vayagel kevodi, af besari yishkon lavetach. Ki lo tazov nafshi lishol, lo titen asimcha lirot shachat, todieni orach chaim, orach chaim. Sovasmachot et panecha, nimot b'mincha netzach. Shiviti Adonai, lenegdi tamid, ki mimini bahemot.
Psalm 15. Adonai, mia gora b'holecha mishkon b'char kodshecha, Holech tamim ufoel tzedek v'dover emet bilvavo. Adonai, who may abide in your house? Who may dwell in your holy mountain? Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may, do not retract, who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. In the 23rd Psalm, Adonai roi lo exor beno deshe yarbitzeni, al me menuchot yinachaleni. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And Psalm 121 is likewise a psalm recited at funeral services. It begins, Esayinai el heharim me'ayin yavo Isri. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. And the psalm concludes, God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. Ecclesiastes teaches, for everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, words of meditation, a time to speak as our tradition teaches, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Yehiyu l'ratzo.
Yehiyu l'ratzo nimrei fi. Yehiyu l'ratzo nimrei fi. Behagyan libi lifanecha. Adonai tzuri v'goali. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditation of my heart be acceptable before you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Oh, say shalom bimromav, uya say shalom aleinu, they all call Israel, ve'imru, amen.
time to speak. The book of Proverbs also tells us, Lashon hachamim marpeh, that the tongue of the wise brings balm. May the words of our speakers bring their intended consolation. Our first speaker is Barbara Phillips.
Ruthie, Carmel, Rabbi, family, and friends. To anyone who has ever had an interaction or encounter with Bert Boyson, I can only know one thing is true. To know Bert was to love Bert, and here's why. First of all, who could not love that infectious and warm smile, his kind words, his genuine interest in others? Even as he lay in bed in those last few months when visitors arrived, he would open his eyes and with that radiant smile filling his whole face, saying to all, "So glad to see you. I'm glad you came." But the best smiles were always saved for ice cream, desserts, and Ruthie. When they appeared, oh my, that was the biggest smile of all. He was one of the sweetest gentlemen Art and I had the pleasure and honor of calling a friend. "Hey, Barbara," that's what he called me, Barbara. He would greet me as I left my driveway. How could I not love a man who loved to listen, who asked about your children and grandchildren by name, and remembered even the smallest detail that you had shared with him? And when they appeared in person, he was happiest talking to young people about their interest. He would instantly engage them to talk about their lives and listen intently. Second, how could you not love a man who was so brilliant and inquisitive? He was always researching, learning, investigating, sharing his latest opinions on the current political, international, or social issues. Of course, he had a very special devotion and interest in his beloved Ruthie's homeland of Israel, and advocated for its people and progress with such pride and passion. His mind was always in gear, and many days I'd find him sitting outside his garage in his beach chair with the sun beaming down on his face deep into the latest book. Our most recent discussion revolved around the book Sapiens. Don't ask. As a retired engineer, he also loved the latest gadgets, inventions, computers, and wanted to order the latest available. I would tease him about the frequency of the UPS deliveries. I told him he was definitely the Amazon king of Oldfield. How could you not love and admire a man who at 90 had so many active interests outdoors and in nature? Biking, kayaking, swimming, hiking, and his beloved Audubon Society. Sometime, despite some back issues, I would smile as I passed Bert walking with one hiking pole in each hand moving forward, or riding his bike around the Oldfield property with the most determined look on his face. And then there was the time he went kayaking alone and managed to lose his car keys, worrying everyone for hours. He heard about that caper from Ruthie for days to come. Lastly, his devotion, love, and appreciation for his Ruthie and Carmel was always evident to anyone who watched. He quelled at their success and their accomplishments. During the long illness, he took every opportunity to thank them for coming and being part of his life. You were a gentle giant, Bert. You will be missed by so many. One of my favorite quotes, as many of you know, is Maya Angelou. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. Bert, you always made us and others feel so good. Rest in peace, dear friend.
We invite forward Mark Ligorski.
I was reflecting on what it meant to be a speaker for the dead, and I think in a metaphor that Bert would have appreciated as an engineer, a scientist, maybe a mathematician, that there is an equation that one is supposed to solve. In this case, the equation is Bert equals X, and we have to solve for X. But how do you solve for a life in such a short period of time when there is an entire life? And it struck me again, channeling Bert, that systems work on fundamental principles, and those principles are the things that operate, and then everything are just details beyond those principles. So what are those principles that Bert operated on that we all know and cared for so much? His kindness, his curiosity, his generosity, his lightheartedness, his ability to find joy in the world, his ability to poke fun at himself, his constant curiosity and concern about so many things in the world, about nature, about politics, about Israel, again, new gadgets, and all those sorts of things. And so when you were with him, those principles were always in effect, and you found yourself drawn into whatever that is, and sharing in that, and then basking in that light, and becoming enriched by that. I always find it marvelous that people who are so accomplished are also the most modest, and his ability to find fun in the world and also again, to poke fun at himself was really one of those joys to share. I am jealous of people who have known him longer than I have. I found my life greatly enriched by my time with him, whether it was being at a dinner, going out to a play, and it was really always such a wonderful time. I say this often when I think about Bert, is that when I grow up, I want to be him. He certainly led by example in a very kind and generous way. And if I can share any of that in my own life, I will consider myself blessed. Thank you.
Linda Goodman, our Director of Sacred Music.
Well, first, my husband Dan was a very good friend of Bert's, and they spent a lot of time together in recent months. And he is in Israel, not able to be here today, but he did send me some words to say today. So now I am Dan. I really got to know Bert when his illness shook us all like an earthquake. He was shaken too, but I think we clung to him as the one point that was stable and sure to provide safety for the rest of us. He wasn't avoiding the issue, just proceeding in a deliberate and rational way at each step. During the early months, his spirits were unflaggingly positive, with the exception of trying to understand the mysterious descriptions of what was wrong while he was at Danbury Hospital, and while he was at River Glen on account of his unstoppable urge to be home. And what a home it was. When he was sure his fate was almost exclusively in Ruthie's hands, he was beyond positive. He was, I truly believe, happy. His physical calm stuck in bed without a complaint, and his serene manner welcoming us visitors and the many helping hands providing his care. These were what continued to support the rest of us. That smile, those warm hands holding ours on many a cold winter day, that eager asking of perhaps unanswerable questions, providing a way to connect with us. These were what kept us from staring at the looming abyss torn open by his illness, and allowed us to concentrate on life, not death. Maybe Bert was our rock, but then there is Ruthie. If not a rock, then a mountain of love, tenderness, patience, and for every one of us, our expedition guide up, or was it down, the rocky path we were following. Ruthie, you were the streams of sunlight illuminating Bert's journey while he was fighting. And you are the continued brightness, sure to provide a warm reflection of his life from now on. Our hearts are broken for you, but just the same, our love for you has grown stronger. Ruthie, now please take these words to heart and keep strong, not just for you to continue to embody the brave life you created with Bert, but also to share the richness of that life going forward with all of us. You want me to be Linda? Okay, now I'm Linda.
You're always Linda.
Okay, for many of us, our lives are surrounded by agendas and ever-growing to-do lists and cell phones and computers. We are so focused on what we need to do and what comes next. When I visited Bert, I checked all that, the phone, the agenda, the to-do list at the door, along with my boots. And then I would enter a special now space, and it was just Bert and me. And this brilliant space scientist, who was so well-read and knowledgeable, would meet me in my very simple world, and we would share stories from our pasts. We would talk about things that were commonplace, insignificant, yet somehow so profound. Bert opened his heart and listened from a place deep inside. He was so interested, he was so accepting. And he was really like that before he got sick. That was Bert. And before I left our visits, we held hands, we locked eyes, and each of us beaming, we sang the Mishaberach as if it were the first time it was ever experienced. Even with other people in the room, there was always that special bond. I don't know if you knew. It was just about Bert and me at that moment. Bert may have been a very rational man, but he lived his life as if he believed in God. He believed in the goodness of people and the sanctity of life and the beauty of every single moment. And I know that what I felt with Bert was not unique. He created so many of these special now moments with his beloved circle of friends and many of those with whom he interacted. I will think of Bert so very often, and every time I sing the Mishaberach. And I will strive to fill my life with these special now moments that Bert opened my eyes to. Thank you, Bert.
Dear friends, Hadar and David are today out of the country. They're in Botswana. They sent this reflection on Bert to share with all of us. Bert was our good friend. Though he drifted away with peace and grace, he left many ripples behind. That was the way he conducted his life, with humility and modesty, despite the many achievements in his working life and in his personal life. Bert was a deeply curious person who could add important information to a conversation on almost any topic, usually in the form of penetrating questions. When he was first diagnosed, the fact that he was about to be 90 meant nothing to him. He was as ready as ever to live as long as possible, to advocate for Israel, to enjoy the world, his friends, and of course his beloved Ruthie. If the world relies on its good people, we have just lost one, and we feel the trembling. Goodbye, Bert. We love you and honor you. Hadar and David. A time to speak. We are taught that words matter. Our preeminent prayer, Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel. The proverb teaches as well, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver. We invite forward Peggy Klein to read 2 poems composed by Ruth.
The first of the 2 poems that I will read was written in October of 1992. It's called Unfolding, and it's to Bert with awe. Unfolding is the night yielding its dreams to the softness of dawn. Unfolding is the tree bursting into shades of sunlight, gently passing against the warm earth. Unfolding is the path crashed under perpetual wanderers seeking haven. Unfolding is a face brushed against another face, whispering comfort. Unfolding is you and I. The second poem was written more recently, within the last few months, and it's entitled The Grief of Losing You. Innocent, we inherit the pain of generations. Perplexed and deeply awed, we convey the layered burdens one by one to you, who, knowing no other pathway to devotion, would embrace the fullness of suffering, salve the wounds.
In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lekach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mivarach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. And yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. With Job, we say, Adonai Natan, God, you have given, you gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in his life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai Lekach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and love. As we now say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. Blessed be the name of God, now and forever. We take this moment to pray in silence. Friends, late last summer, I stopped in to see Bert in the hospital. As till the very end, he was extraordinarily welcoming. Still, as Dan indicated, Bert desperately wanted to be home, which, thanks to Ruthie's loving care, would indeed happen. In the interim, Bert determined to persevere. In fact, with computer, iPad, telephone, newspapers, and books, Bert had his very own workstation there. The space resembled a library, Carol, as much as it did a patient's room. The computer screen showed a NASA website dedicated to the upcoming James Webb Telescope. Entering to check on Bert's alertness, a staffer asked a simple, mundane question. Bert responded correctly. Nudnik, that I am, pointing to the screen, I explained how the man before us had helped to develop earlier space telescopes. Bert then marveled how the Webb's diameter would give it more collecting area, a larger field of view, and better spatial resolution. Clearly, his condition, an aggressive cancer of the brain, had not affected his intellect, nor would it. Just days ago, he was receiving updates on current events. Bert was born in Brooklyn in 1929 to Elizabeth and Herman. Tragedy struck when, at the age of 14, Bert lost his father. A gifted student, Bert went to Brooklyn Tech, the elite New York City high school, graduating in 1947. It wasn't easy, he told me. There was a long subway ride, and for the first time, he really had to apply himself. From Brooklyn Tech, he went to other top institutions, City College, and then Columbia, where he studied the management of research and development. Bert spent 2 years in the Army. He was plucked out of a unit headed for Korea to join a special artillery unit based in El Paso that utilized German scientists for developing ground-to-air missiles. Bert was an instructor for 2 years until his discharge. He then returned to Brooklyn, working during the day and then attending NYU at night, he lived at home to help his mother and save money. Starting at Bulova Watches, his professional career blossomed in optics and aerospace, first to New Jersey and then Connecticut. Fairchild Camera, Olivetti, Perkin-Elmer, Hughes Industries, Goodrich. Bert participated in the development of the X-ray technology for the Chandra and Hubble telescopes, serving as a leader on part of the Chandra project. A Yiddish expression translates, "The mirror reveals the truth," and is especially apt on two levels. Not only did Bert's work help offer greater insight into the cosmos, it also, ironically, maintained a generational connection. Bert's father, Herman, had worked on mirrors, polishing them. Bert made them flatter, more amenable to discovery. And though he didn't talk about it until very recently, Bert likewise lent his expertise to other important projects. For example, he was involved in the top secret, now declassified Hexagon satellite, which monitored Soviet military capabilities. During these years, Bert had married Phyllis, who predeceased him. They had 2 children, a daughter, Heidi, here with us today, and a son, Bradley, whom sadly also predeceased Bert. To both, Bert was a dedicated and caring father. Becoming a consultant after retirement through a connection made within our synagogue, Bert then taught homeschoolers, preparing them for the SATs and helping them in math and physics. He also taught science at Naugatuck Valley Community College. Bert loved reading, classical music, opera, and other music, and travel. He adored nature and birds and was active in the Audubon Society. He was, as we've heard, an athlete, a bike rider. The Berkshires, Woodstock, and Israel were special places to be with friends and family. As we know and have heard from several of our speakers this morning, he was not only smart and a person of great integrity, but also modest, kind, positive, personable, open-minded, and good-humored. He was uncomplaining. Bert ate healthy. I'm told Bert could be playful, if not mischievous, at worship services in Woodstock, though I recall no such behavior here, either in this sanctuary or at meetings of the Tamid Endowment Campaign Committee or our other committees. He was the type of guy who, when buying a digital camera for his stepdaughter, knowing she liked to attend concerts, would research to find the best device that was compact, portable, and took distant pictures in low light. Given Bert's illness, the 2 birthdays recently celebrated, Bert's 90th and then Ruthie's 80th, were laden with profound emotion. On both occasions, Bert expressed his deep love and gratitude for the people in his life, starting with Ruthie. We were reminded how nothing so ennobles us as the will to love, to care, to engage with others, and maintain our obligations. Both milestones demonstrated how supporting one another, Bert and Ruthie did just that, especially amidst the challenges of these last months. Together with Ruthie, Bert was also unabashed in his commitment to Israel and the Jewish people. He studied, wrote, lectured, served on committees, first in Danbury and then in Southbury and statewide. With primer, he composed letters to the editor defending Israel in area papers, taking on anti-Semites and anti-Zionists. For such efforts, Bert and Ruthie were honored in 2013 by the Danbury Jewish Federation. Here at B'nai Israel, for years, Bert was an influential member of our Israel Advocacy Committee, and he wrote and oversaw our congregation's weekly Israel Advocacy Update of events and articles, his last contribution from the hospital workstation. So too, Bert was on the board of JFACT, the Jewish Federation Association of Connecticut. Beginning in 2009, he served 3 years as vice president. Then director Bob Fishman told me how over a lunch in New Haven, he tried to convince Bert to be the next president. To quote Bob directly, in his typical humble fashion, he declined and said, "We really should have a president from one of the larger communities." Nevertheless, as vice president, Bert still managed to steer the JFAC board to not just focus on social service issues in Connecticut, but also to advocate for Israel and our Israeli partnership institutions. Bert encouraged JFAC to provide speakers from Israel to talk on college campuses and in smaller communities. In other words, early on, over a decade ago, Bert grasped the current topic of the current challenge of BDS and designed a necessary response. Momentarily, Linda will sing in Hebrew what's known as the prayer for the state of Israel. It begins, Avinu Shebashamayim, O Heavenly One, Tzur Yisrael, V'goalo, Rock of Israel and its Redeemer. Bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. The prayer's opening message is this: O Heavenly One, the source of knowledge studied in the heavens, is also the Rock of Israel, a force bringing blessing and hope to the Jewish people and the Jewish state. The prayer's insight, expanding learning of the universe, is sacred, and promoting safety and self-determination is sacred. Tellingly, these first 4 Hebrew words, Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael, O Heavenly One, Rock of Israel, bespeak Bert's twin passions and the 2 pillars of his treasured identity as a scientist and as a Zionist. For Bert was a builder of space telescopes, exploring the stars above, and an advocate devoted to our people's peace and security, grounded firmly in the soil of the land of Israel. Leaving his family, community, and many dear ones, reuniting with its source, Bert's soul arrives to Judaism's understanding of heaven, the Olam Haba, the world to come. Reflecting on his sense of mission, I can't somehow help but envision Bert's spirit as busy, engaged, and determined, and proud to have been a lover of science and a defender of Israel. Alav HaShalom, may his repose be peace. Ken Yehi Ratzon, be this God's will.
Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Goalo, Bereket Avdina Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Geulatenu, Hagen Alecha, Be'evrat Chazdecha, Ufros Aleha, Sukat Shalomecha, Ushlach Orcha ve'amitcha, Lirosheha Saheya ve'yoatzecha, V'chanem v'tatnem b'etza tova, V'etza tova milfanecha, Avinu Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Goalo, Barech Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Mirat Geulatenu, V'nomar Amen, V'nomar Amen.
Immediately after this service, we proceed to Farban Cemetery in Morris for the burial service, and then return back here to our social hall for the meal of consolation. Shiva Minyanim will be held at the family home, 33 Oldfield Hill Road, number 21, on Sunday and Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Amongst the institutions where donations may be directed in Bert's memory is the Israel Cancer Research Fund, 7 Luminor Drive in Stamford, Connecticut. We invite forward the pallbearers, Eric Albert, Jeff Berkowitz, Tim Fanti, Jerry Klein, Mark Ligorski, Vinny Papalo. While the ancient Egyptians literally sought to hoard and bring treasures and slaves into the afterlife, Judaism counseled otherwise. The Mishnah teaches, at the moment of our departure from this world, neither silver nor gold nor precious stones accompany us, only learning and good deeds. Assuredly, Bert arrives on high amidst much knowledge and much dedication to others and to our people. Here is a poetic rendering of the prayer Linda will momentarily chant. May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that we might glimpse in perfect peace and sadness the way of all things. May Bert's memory be for us a blessing, and may we never let the light of his love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all his worthy and righteous deeds, that his memory be forever bound up in the bond of life. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. May his death awaken us to this truth, that the bond of love we shared and share not be severed in sorrow. May he rest in peace. Together we say, Amen.
Amen.
We rise for the traditional El Maleh Rachamim prayer for Baruch ben Chaim the Elisheva.
El Maleh Rachamim Shochen Bamromim Hamtzeh Minucha Nechona Tachat Chanfei Hashkina Im Kirashim Utuharim Kesahar Harakia Masirim Et Nishmat Baruch ben Chaim ve'Elisheva Shehalach le'olamo Baal harachamim Yastirehu biseter kenefov le'olamim Vitror hachayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen.
Adonai ma Adam v'tedahu ben enosh v'tashpehu Adam lehevel dama Yamav kitzel over Baboker yatzitz v'chalaf la'erev yimalel v'yavish Teshev enosh daka v'tomer shuvu v'nei Adam lu hachmu yaskilu zot yavinu la'acharitam ki lo v'mato yikach akol lo yered acharav kvodo shamar tam ur'e yashar ki acharit la'ish shalom todei Adonai nefesh avadav v'lo yem shmu kol hachasim bo Adonai ma'on ata hayita lanu bador bador v'terem harim yuldu v'techolel eretz v'tevel v'meolam v'adolam ata el teshev enosh adaka v'tomer shruvu v'nei adam ki elef shanim ba'enecha kayom etmol ki ya'avor v'ashmarav alayla zram tam shena v'yi v'aboker kechatzitz v'chalof v'aboker yatzitz v'chalof